Hello everyone and welcome to my YouTube channel on writing. In this latest video I am going to delve into the first chapter of my published novel The Lady in Red, which is available to purchase at Amazon.com as a Kindle. In this first chapter I'm going to introduce the action moves into the modern day of the historical scene from the prologue. And in this chapter, I introduce the readers to the Stanley family, who in due time are going to be suffering at the hands of Jack Farley, the evil ghost, who will haunt their every move. So this is the first chapter from The Lady in Red. Rust Hall, Kent. "How did you do in the spelling test this morning?" Paul Stanley asked his close friend Alan Jones. They were standing in the middle of a frenetic school playground along with another chum, Stephen Carr. The three boys made for a quiet group. They were each of them of a shy disposition who only came alive when in each other's company. "Oh," replied Alan to Paul's interested inquiry. "I did all right, I guess. I'm not that good at spelling, but I managed to get 14 out of 20. 14? Interposed Stephen with a shriek, as if it was the most calamitous event imaginable, like a ship capsizing on a raging sea or falling hundreds of feet to one's death off a sheer rock face. I'd be embarrassed if I only get that many right. I mean, the words weren't difficult, were they? So how come you got so many wrong?" "Geez, Steve," shot back at her Alan. "Didn't you hear what I said? I'm not much cop at spelling. I'm better than I used to be, but I'm still no great shakes." He then looked at his accuser with a glint in his eye. "But then you're one to talk, aren't you? Let's face it, you're not much use at geography, are you?" "I'm okay." "Really? Well, how come you didn't even know the capital of Finland then when Mr. Arnold asked us the other day? Everyone knows it's Helsinki, but you said—" "Stockholm," answered an irritated Stephen. "Yes, okay, you've got a point. I did feel pretty dumb when I said that. I should have known it was in Sweden." "You've got that right." Alan gloried in his friend's discomfort as he smirked at him. Indeed, it appeared he was not content to let the matter rest there. "And that's not the first time you came out with a stupid answer." "Why, just the other day—" "Will you shut up?" roared an angry Stephen. "I've listened to about enough of your rubbish for one break time. Just give it a rest, will you?" "Why should I? I mean, you're the one who started all this when you went on about my spelling, even though I told you I wasn't any good at it." "Well, I only—" "Hey, guys!" Paul cut into his friend's war of words. He couldn't bear to see his two close chums at loggerheads. The three of them usually got on so well. He always hated it when they had a disagreement, or worse still, fell out over something. The pity of it was usually over something so stupid, like the results of a spelling test. "Take it easy, will you?" he pleaded with them. "You're acting like those two idiots in our class, and you know who I'm talking about. The ruffians, the grisly gremlins, the demons from the dark side." At this, Alan and Stephen joined in with Paul's laughter. The two boys in question were a couple of unsavoury characters, school bullies of the worst kind. "Andrew Jameson and Colin Dexter," sighed Alan in hushed tones, once the burst of giggling had come to an end. "Boy, are they a couple of nasties." "They sure are," agreed a wistful Paul. "I don't know what their problem is. All they ever seem to do is cause trouble." "Yeah, that's right." Stephen wrinkled up his face as if a bad smell had just wafted up his nose. "Hey, Steve," called out a concerned Alan. "Are you okay? You don't look good at the moment. You've gone all pale." "It's nothing," Stephen was quick to assure him. "I was just thinking back to the other day when the grisly gremlins," here he turned to Paul and they exchanged a smile, "ganged up on me and started pushing me around. I was wondering just now what they would have done to me if you hadn't arrived when you did." "Try not to think about it, Steve," said Paul, as he put an arm around his friend. "We were there, so you don't need to worry about stuff like that. We've got each other, and we're more than a match for those demons from the dark." All three boys laughed at one of their favourite descriptions for the two bullies. They had come up with many more sarcastic labels for their hated enemies: the cringing creeps, the hounding hecklers, and the gut gutless goons were just 3 more of a whole gamut of names they'd invented to express their antipathy to 2 boys who had always been horrible to them, without having any cause for being so. "Hey!" cried out Alan with a start as if a massive jolt of electricity had shot through his slender form. "Look over there, guys! It's the gutless goons themselves! What are they up to now, I wonder?" Both Paul and Stephen looked round in the direction their friend was pointing. Sure enough, they saw the 2 ruffians, and it was clear they were once again up to no good. "Well, isn't that such a surprise?" smirked Stephen. "They're picking on that new kid. That beats everything. He's in the year below us, and yet he's the one they've singled out for special treatment. That's just too much, that really is." "I say we help the kid out," suggested Paul. "What do you think?" His 2 friends were quick to agree to his proposal. However, just as they were approaching Andrew and Colin, as they were pushing their poor victim around, the bell rang for the end of break time. The relief in the boy's face was self-evident as he ran off to his next class. "Don't you worry, dweeb," Andrew shouted at the retreating boy as a savage expression came to his rough and ready looks. "We'll see to you soon enough. You just see if we don't." His threatening utterance gained a herald in Colin's cackling laughter as the 2 bullies made their own leisurely way to their next class of the day. "Something has definitely got to be done about those 2, remarked a determined-sounding Paul, as he walked along the playground with his 2 friends. "They get away with absolute murder." "Yeah, I know," nodded Alan, "but what can we do?" "We can do plenty, believe me." "Well, we can't do anything at the moment," pointed out Stephen. "If we don't get a move on, we'll be in trouble for Mr. Arnold, so let's go." With that, the 3 boys were off like a blaze of light as they dived into the school building, banging the door behind them as they went. Jeff Stanley was busy typing away on his PC when his fellow manager, Scott Thompson, came marching up to him. "Hey, Jeff," he barked out in agitation. "Have you forgotten about the meeting that we arranged for this afternoon? We were supposed to be having a monthly discussion as to the effectiveness or otherwise of the 151 Vault Repair team as a whole," smiled back Jeff in a calm and assured style, which was in complete variance with the frenetic, nerve-riddled state Scott had got himself into at the mere thought of this meeting. "No, of course I haven't forgotten about it. But it's done in a few minutes," pointed out Scott as he took a quick, nervous glance at his watch. "So let's get going." "What's the rush, mate? Look, if you're feeling so uptight about a simple meeting, then why don't you go on ahead and I'll join you in a minute. By the way, I don't know if your watch is fast or if you're just being too precise with your time." "Eh?" eyed a mystified Scott as he shuffled some documents he had brought along for the meeting. "What are you driving at?" "Simply this. You're acting as if we haven't a single moment to lose, as if we're on a really tight schedule, as if our very jobs depend on our getting to the meeting room at a designated time." "Well, yes," replied Scott with a look of astonishment. "What's wrong with that? It's an important meeting. I don't want to be late for it." "Then go and leave me in peace." Jeff looked incredulously at Scott's trembling figure as he pushed a pen across his desk. "Good heavens, man, why do you take these meetings so damn seriously? Let's face it, they never amount to much. It just allows us managers to blow off a lot of hot air and to wax lyrical on whatever personal grievances we may have about how the company is run." "Oh, come on, there's more to it than that. You know fine well there is." "Well, okay, I might be trivialising things to a certain extent, but still." "But nothing. Look, you can be casual about this if you want to, but I've got a few things to get off my chest in this meeting, and I can do without your patronising comments, thank you very much." "Patronising? Well, that really takes a biscuit, I must say. How about if you take a seat, mate? I think your nervousness is rubbing off on me." "I'm not nervous, I just want to get to this meeting and you're delaying me." "Eh?" Jeff could hardly believe what he was hearing. At times he thought Scott could be impossible. Looking at him now with his edgy persona and desperation to air his grievances at the monthly meeting, the image came to Jeff's mind of a university student who was hell-bent on doing well in the forthcoming exams. Was this how his friend viewed these casual meetings between fellow members of the 151 Vault Repair Unit and their immediate superior? "Nobody's holding here, you know," Jeff told him. "Why don't you go now if you're so keen to create a good impression with the boss man? I'll be on my way pretty soon myself." "Why not now?" You mean we'll be able to get underway a bit? No, it won't. I mean, just look. Jeff pointed out as he shot an accusing figure at his PC's digital clock. We've still got 5 minutes in hand before the meeting is supposed to be up and running. The emphasis here is most certainly on the term supposed to be. For you know as well as I do that we usually sit around endlessly for 50 minutes or so before we start discussing the real business matters. Before that, it's all idle chatter over one trivial thing or another. These usually go along the lines of, did you see the match last night? Or what are you up to this evening? Not forgetting the old classic. Fancy meeting up for a drink after work? That's all fine and dandy, but I prefer to fulfil the job this company pays me for, which is fitting in a proper shift of work, not arriving for meetings miles early and wasting time on a mundane talk when it could be better served in some useful task or other in the carrying out my duties as a 151 manager. Fine then, retorted an abrasive Scot. I'll leave you to the fulfilment of your work duties. I've got a meeting to attend. If you want to be late and incur the wrath of a superior, it's up to you. But I know how harshly it looks on those managers who don't keep to tight time scales, and I'm not going to be found wanting in that regard. So I'll see you when I see you. With that, Scot was off, striding purposefully, if in something of a ragged tempo. Jeff shook his head as he watched his fellow manager retreat into the distance. As he did so, he made his own final preparations for the upcoming meeting. Printing of a report which he required for the imminent discussion that was to be held under the auspices of the Level 1 manager of the BT 151 Fault Repair Unit, he sighed at his friend's recent demeanour. Placing the copied out report with his other documents, which were all meticulously kept in strict order of importance, Jeff smiled as he compared his own preparations for the manager's get-together to that of his colleague. They were poles apart in this regard. Where Scot was a barrel of nerves whenever the time came around for one of these meetings, Jeff took everything in his stride. This seemed to highlight the radically different ways in which the two men ran their lives. Where Jeff was happily married, with 3 reasonably well-adjusted children, Scot was a bachelor who seemed to live his life on a perpetual knife edge. Everything he did had an air of frenzy, almost desperation about it. He was one of those people who never appeared to have full control of his emotions. He would either be on incredible high, ready to explode with high spirits, or on an irredeemable low where everything went wrong for him. An eternal contradiction, my friend, that's what you are, reflected Jeff, as he thought of the gulf which existed between his character and that of his long-time friend. A perpetual enigma, who tries to be all things to all men, but who never seems able to strike a happy balance within himself which could bring him some much-needed peace of mind. Right then, people, he announced to his hard-working team, I'm off to my meeting now. Should be about an hour and a half or so just take a message if there's a call for me and tell them I'll get back to them when I return. Receiving a hubbub of acknowledgement from his team that they would do as he bid, Jeff was on his way. His stride had nothing in common with that exhibited by Scot moments before, but in stark contrast to his friend, Jeff walked in a calmly assured manner as he headed off to the meeting room. Claire Stanley was hard at work that night, putting the final touches to a school project she had been working on for the past few weeks. It had been a tough assignment, which was not what the young girl was used to. She was a bright pupil, and always scored high marks, usually coming top of her class. However, this was an art assignment, and art was one of her least favourite subjects. Generally speaking, she had a natural flair for her schoolwork, and seemed to thrive on the questions her teacher placed before her. The more difficult the question, the more intense was her application to her work. Claire was certainly a smart child, which ran contrary to her younger brother Paul, who was no more than an average pupil. That was a label which could never be attached to Claire. As she drew a duck swimming in a pond, her other sibling, Tony, came rushing into the room. The 2 girls had shared a room since Tony's birth. That was all of 7 years before. It had never been an arrangement to meet with Claire's good graces. At the moment she was regretting the day her younger sister was born, as she slammed her crayon down and turned to glare at the unruly girl. Just pack it in, will you? She bellowed as she tried to bring a halt to Tony's persistent wailing. She was trying to sing, but it came over to Claire's ears as an irksome screeching which was painful to listen to. I will not, retorted Tony as she pulled a face at her older sister. I like singing, You can't stop me from doing what I want to do, so there. Claire let out a deep sigh as she placed her work to one side. It was clear she was going to get no further in her project for the moment at any rate. Tossing back her shoulder-length blonde hair as she moved over to Tony, she took up a mode of attack which she had found worked well whenever her younger sister was playing up. "Do you call that singing?" she laughed. "Didn't sound like it to me. It sounded more like the noise a cat makes when you stand on its tail." No, it was closer to the squeak Fred makes when you pat him too roughly. No, better yet, it sounded just like... "Oh, will you shut up?" bawled out Tony as she jumped up off her bed. Claire's reference to a pet hamster had certainly not gone down well with her. "Stop poking fun at Fred. That's cruel." "I wasn't poking fun at him, you twit. It was you I was laughing at, and you didn't like it, did you?" "Well, it wasn't very nice to say those things." "Oh, don't be such a baby," ridiculed Claire. "You started all this, coming in here and disturbing me when I'm trying to finish my school project." "Well," huffed Tony, "I didn't know you were doing that, did I? How was I supposed to know if you didn't tell me?" "Oh, don't start. I always do my homework about this time, and this project is part of that." "Oh, big deal. I want to play." "Well, go and play somewhere else, will you? I need peace and quiet to do my work, so just shove off." "Claire's in a bad mood, Claire's in a bad mood," recited Tony in a sing-song tone. She ran out of the room. However, she soon returned as she popped her head round the door to meet her sister's withering look. "I'm going to see what Paul's doing," she told her. "I bet he'll be more fun than you." Claire let out a sigh of relief as Tony skipped off in the direction of her brother's room. She was glad to be rid of his sister, who at times could be a complete nuisance. It did not take long for Claire to get back into the swing of things as she returned to her drawing. The scene she was depicting was based on a school trip she and her fellow class members had been on a few days before and which formed the basis of her project. As Claire drew her picture, she reflected back to the afternoon she and her classmates had spent at Dunolan Park. It had been a lovely day with a warm sun on their backs and clear blue skies overhead. It was a perfect setting for the field trip. Having arrived at the duck pond, the children were given strict instructions as to the behaviour which was expected of them while they remained by the waterside. They were to sketch the pond and the surrounding area, and they were to do so in a quiet and orderly manner. Any signs of misbehaviour or rowdiness would bring a sharp response from their teacher. Having thus been warned as to her conduct, Claire settled down on the grassy verge which ran alongside the duck pond. She had good company as her three best friends, Kelly Davis, Catherine Edwards, and Leslie Taylor, had sat themselves nearby. She felt right at home as she took pad and pencil in hand, began to sketch the scene in front of her. The sound of the ducks quacking filled the afternoon air. Some of the children threw slices of bread at the figures, which drifted by on the smooth surface of the water, creating a rippling effect. "That's a funny-looking duck you're drawing," remarked Kelly as she glanced at Claire's sketch. "It doesn't look right somehow." As if miffed by her friend's words, Claire slammed her pencil down on the ground and glared venomously at her picture. However, it soon turned out to be the truth behind Kelly's comments which had disturbed Claire, rather than the harshness of them. "You're right, Kelly," she agreed in a disappointed vein. "I don't know why it is, but whenever I try to draw people or animals, they always come out wrong. It's just so dumb. I like drawing things, but when it comes to figures, I'm totally hopeless." "Oh, what?" sighed Leslie, who had overheard her friend's conversation. "Are you for real, Claire? You're brilliant at just about all your subjects, so what if there's one thing you can't do well? That just gives the rest of us a chance." Standing up now, she moved across to where Claire was sitting and knelt down to take a closer look at her sketch. Her face made quite a picture in itself as she screwed it up in strange contortions, lifting her eyebrows and shrugging her shoulders. She ended her silent examination of the picture by scratching her head in a rueful manner. "Well," asked Claire, with a keen interest, "what do you reckon? It's just as bad as I said it was, isn't it?" "Oh, I don't know about that. It's sort of... Come on, Les, I can take it. Honest, I can." Leslie smiled back at her friend as she took the drawing in her hands. "Don't worry. I wasn't going to say anything bad. I think it's quite good. I can see what Kelly means, though. That duck of yours does have an odd shape. It looks weird somehow, but I can't quite put my finger on it." "Okay, then," returned a determined Claire as she reclined her picture, before returning to a third friend who sat close at hand. "What do you think is wrong with my drawing, Cathy?" Oh, come on, Claire, protested Leslie. I told you there was nothing wrong with it. It's just that it doesn't seem lifelike. Huh, spat out a disenchanted Claire. That's just another way of saying it's a rubbish drawing. Catherine burst in at this point with her own pearls of wisdom. She had a natural flair for art, and on taking the drawing from Claire, she smiled disarmingly at her friend. It's okay, Claire, she assured her. There's no need to get so upset. Look, if you made the beak come more like this, then it would look better. Then if you drew the duck's tummy in a bit like this, I think you'd be on to something. As she suggested ways of improving the drawing, she used her artistic skills to good effect. With deft touches of a pencil, Catherine sketched in the improvements she had advised her friend to make. This did not please Claire. Oh, Cathy, she balked. What's the big idea? It's supposed to be my sketch, not yours. Well, I was only trying to help. Yes, I know, accepted a less piqued Claire. And thanks for that. But what if our teacher caught you doing my work for me? We'd both be in big trouble then, wouldn't we? Catherine shrugged. Oh, who cares about him? Sure, we're allowed to help each other out if we can. He warned us against misbehaving. He didn't say anything about working together, did he? No, agreed Claire, although there were clear signs of reservation of voice. But I've got the feeling he expected us to do our own sketches. I mean, thanks a lot for trying to help me, but this is supposed to be my own drawing. So I think it would be for the best if we worked separately. Okay then, nodded Catherine, if that's the way you want it, but I'm here if you change your mind. Yeah, sure, smiled Claire. She returned to her drawing and activities. She was soon joined in by her 3 friends. As Claire returned to the present, she tried to bear in mind Catherine's suggestions. Working from the sketch she had made at Duck Pond, she gave her copy greater definition with the use of a whole variety of coloured pencils. She brought in the blue surface of the water, intermingled with the floating ducks which had proliferated on the pond during her time there. She also added the grassy verge she had sat on whilst working on her original sketch, together with the expanse of shrubs and bushes which surrounded the pond. Indeed, Claire was just on the point of penciling in a clump of bushes, which had rested next to the area she and her friends had chosen for their vantage point, when her concentration was disturbed. Once again it was Tony who burst in on her, although this time she had a good reason for interrupting her sister in mid-flow. It's tea time, Claire, she shouted excitedly as she ran into the room. Yeah, okay, replied Claire. I'm just coming. Tony looked accusingly at her sister as she continued to draw. No, don't just come. Just come. You'd better as well, or else you'll get into real trouble from Mum. Claire smiled at this last remark as she put her pencils down and followed Tony out of the room. She knew all too well how annoyed their mother became when dinner was cold, and yet certain members of the family did not come running straight away. It was just the sort of thing to put her in a bad mood. Claire did not want to be the cause of any bad feeling around the dinner table, so she swiftly made her way down the stairs for the impending meal. So that is the end of chapter 1 of The Lady in Red. I hope you enjoyed this reading, and look out for future readings in the near future. I'd like to ask all my viewers, if you enjoy my content, to subscribe to my channel to increase my fan base, and I look forward to speaking with you very soon. Bye for now.